My name is Rachel Thompson, and I am 28 years old. Today, I own a successful digital marketing consultancy that generates six figures annually, live in a beautiful downtown loft that I purchased with cash, and maintain complete control over every aspect of my personal and professional life. 3 years ago, however, my parents informed me that I had exactly 2 weeks to vacate my childhood bedroom because my younger sister Nicole needed the space for her husband and newborn daughter. The same parents who kicked me out to accommodate. Nicole's family later called me in desperation, begging for financial assistance when their carefully constructed world began crumbling around them. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. This story is not about revenge or vindication, though those emotions certainly played their roles during the darkest moments of my journey. Instead, this is about the profound transformation that occurs when the people you trust most in the world demonstrate that their love comes with conditions, limitations, and a hierarchy that places you somewhere near the bottom. It is about discovering that the pain of family rejection can become the catalyst for building something far more valuable than their approval ever could have provided. The journey from that devastating conversation in our family kitchen to the empowered independence I enjoy today required me to confront truths about family dynamics, personal worth, and the difference between being needed and being valued that I had spent 25 years avoiding or misunderstanding. It forced me to develop resilience, financial discipline, professional skills, and emotional boundaries that transformed not only my external circumstances, but my fundamental understanding of what it means to live with dignity and purpose. The irony of parents who prioritized one daughter's immediate needs over another daughter's stability ultimately became the foundation for my liberation from a family system that had never truly recognized my potential or treated me as an equal participant in our shared relationships. Their decision to displace me created the necessity for independence that I might never have pursued if they had continued providing the illusion of belonging and acceptance within their household. When that phone call came 3 years later, with my mother's voice trembling as she explained their financial crisis and asked for my help, I faced a choice that would define not only our future relationship, but my own understanding of forgiveness, boundaries, and the true meaning of family loyalty. The woman who had once begged them not to force her from the only home she had ever known now possessed the resources they desperately needed, along with the hard-earned wisdom to understand the difference between helping from strength and helping from obligation. This transformation did not occur overnight, nor did it unfold without moments of profound doubt, loneliness, and financial anxiety that tested every aspect of my character and resolve. There were nights when I questioned whether maintaining my pride was worth the cost of isolation from the people who had raised me, and days when the practical challenges of building an independent life seemed overwhelming compared to the safety of family acceptance, even if that acceptance came with conditions and limitations. The story begins not with my displacement, but with the years of preparation and dreaming that preceded it, because understanding how I had positioned myself for eventual independence helps explain why their decision ultimately became an opportunity rather than a catastrophe. Every choice I made during my early 20s, every skill I developed, every relationship I built, and every dollar I saved contributed to the foundation that would support me when their support disappeared. My childhood in suburban Denver provided a comfortable middle-class upbringing within a family structure that appeared normal and functional from external perspectives, but contained dynamics and hierarchies that would prove crucial to understanding the events that followed. Our home on Maple Street featured 4 bedrooms, a finished basement, and enough space to accommodate 2 parents and 2 daughters without crowding or obvious resource conflicts. Yet the allocation of attention, resources, and emotional investment within that space revealed patterns that would persist well into our adult relationships. My father, David Thompson, worked as a senior accountant for a regional firm that provided steady income and middle management respectability without the demands or rewards of executive leadership. His approach to parenting reflected his professional personality, methodical, risk-averse, and focused on maintaining stability rather than pursuing growth or addressing underlying problems that might disrupt established routines. He viewed family relationships through the lens of practical management rather than emotional connection, often treating conflicts as administrative issues to be resolved through policy implementation rather than communication and understanding. My mother, Patricia Thompson, had transitioned from elementary school teaching to full-time homemaking when Nicole was born, 6 years after my arrival. Her teaching background provided organizational skills and developmental awareness that benefited both daughters during our early years. But her decision to focus entirely on domestic responsibilities created an identity that became increasingly centered on family management and child advocacy roles that would later influence her response to conflicts between her daughters' competing needs and interests. Nicole's arrival when I was 6 years old fundamentally altered family dynamics in ways that extended far beyond the typical adjustments required for second-child integration. Her birth coincided with my parents' increased financial stability and confidence in their parenting abilities, creating circumstances that enabled them to provide her with opportunities, attention, and material advantages that had not been available during my early childhood when they were younger, less experienced, and managing tighter budgets. The age gap between Nicole and me created natural differences in our experiences and relationships within the family structure. But those differences became magnified by parental approaches that consistently favored Nicole's immediate needs over my developing independence and long-term interests. While I was expected to demonstrate maturity, responsibility, and self-sufficiency that befitted my older sister's status, Nicole received accommodation, protection, and advocacy that enabled her to avoid many of the challenges and learning opportunities that had shaped my character development. These early patterns established dynamics that would persist throughout our childhood and adolescence, creating a family culture where Nicole's comfort and happiness took priority over other considerations, while my role became increasingly focused on supporting family harmony through compromise, sacrifice, and emotional regulation that maintained peace without addressing underlying inequities or tensions. Academic expectations provided another arena where differential treatment became apparent and influential in shaping our respective development and family relationships. My parents expected high academic performance from me, viewing my success as validation of their parenting effectiveness, while treating my struggles or setbacks as personal failures that reflected poorly on our family's overall achievement and respectability. These expectations created pressure that motivated excellence, but also established perfectionist tendencies that would later influence my professional development and personal relationships. Nicole's academic experience unfolded within a more supportive and accommodating framework that emphasized her effort and progress rather than absolute achievement levels. When she struggled with particular subjects or assignments, my parents provided tutoring, advocacy with teachers, and modified expectations that ensured her success without the stress and anxiety that had characterized my academic experience. This supportive approach undoubtedly benefited Nicole's confidence in learning, but it also created different baseline expectations for how family support functioned within our household. Extracurricular activities and social opportunities reflected similar patterns of differential investment and advocacy that reinforced the hierarchy of attention and resources within our family structure. Nicole's interests in dance, cheerleading, and social activities received enthusiastic parental support that included transportation, equipment, fees, and active participation in related parent organizations and fundraising activities. My interests in debate team, student government, and academic competitions received acknowledgement and permission, but rarely the same level of enthusiastic engagement or financial investment. These differences in support and investment were rarely discussed explicitly within our family, creating an atmosphere where the disparities were obvious but not acknowledged or addressed through direct communication. This silence prevented resolution of underlying tensions while enabling continued patterns that reinforced Nicole's position as the family priority and my role as the self-sufficient daughter who required less attention and resources because of her demonstrated capability and independence. Social relationships during adolescence provided additional evidence of how family dynamics influenced our respective development and preparation for adult independence. Nicole's social circle received parental attention and support that included hosting gatherings, providing transportation to activities, and maintaining relationships with other parents that facilitated her social development and integration within peer groups. My friendships were acknowledged but rarely actively supported through parental involvement or resource allocation that would have enhanced those relationships or provided social opportunities. The financial implications of these differential approaches became increasingly apparent as we approached college age and began requiring more substantial parental investments in our future development and educational opportunities. Nicole's college selection process involved extensive research, campus visits, and financial planning that prioritized her preferences and career interests without significant concern for cost or practical limitations. My college planning focused primarily on financial feasibility and academic merit scholarships that would minimize parental investment while still providing quality educational opportunities. These patterns established expectations and relationship dynamics that would prove crucial when adult circumstances required our parents to make choices about resource allocation and family priorities during times of limited space, financial constraints, or competing needs among family members. The precedents established during our childhood and adolescence created a framework for decision-making that consistently prioritized Nicole's immediate comfort and needs over other considerations, including my stability and long-term interests. Employment during high school and college provided my first substantial experience with independence, financial management, and professional development that would later prove essential when family support disappeared, and I needed to rely entirely on my own capabilities and resources. Part-time work during high school taught me customer service skills, time management, and the satisfaction of earning money through my own efforts, rather than depending on parental generosity or allowance systems that other students took for granted. College work-study programs and summer employment expanded these experiences while providing practical education in workplace dynamics, professional communication, and career development that complemented my academic studies in business, administration, and marketing. These experiences taught me the value of building professional relationships, developing marketable skills, and understanding the connection between effort and reward that would prove invaluable when I needed to establish independent income sources after leaving the family home. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Financial management skills developed through necessity as I learned to budget limited income from part-time work while managing college expenses that were not fully covered by scholarships and parental contributions. This early experience with resource allocation, expense prioritization, and savings discipline created habits and capabilities that would enable me to survive and eventually thrive when family financial support ended abruptly and unexpectedly. The professional network I began building during college internships and entry-level positions provided connections and opportunities that would prove crucial when I needed to establish independent income sources and career advancement outside the safety net of family support and encouragement. These relationships taught me the importance of professional reputation, consistent performance, and the compound benefits of maintaining positive connections with colleagues, supervisors, and industry contacts over time. Marketing and communication skills developed through my academic studies and practical work experience aligned with emerging digital trends and opportunities that would enable me to build a consulting practice serving small businesses and entrepreneurs who needed expertise but could not afford full-time marketing staff. This specialization provided the foundation for the independent consulting business that would eventually generate the financial success and professional recognition that transformed my circumstances and self-perception. Personal development. During my early 20s involved learning to navigate adult relationships, professional challenges, and life decisions without the extensive parental guidance and support that Nicole continued receiving well into her college years and early career development. This independence created both challenges and opportunities that accelerated my emotional maturity and decision-making capabilities while building confidence in my ability to handle complex situations without external validation or assistance. The apartment I rented during my final 2 years of college provided my first experience with independent living, household management, and the financial responsibilities that accompany complete autonomy from family resources and oversight. This experience taught practical skills such as budgeting, maintenance, and household organization, while providing emotional space for developing personal identity and preferences without family influence or expectations. Career planning and professional development during this period focused on building marketable skills and industry knowledge that would provide career flexibility and advancement opportunities, regardless of economic conditions or family circumstances. My approach emphasized portable skills, diverse experience, and professional relationships that would enable geographic mobility and career transitions if circumstances required adaptation or change. Dating relationships during my early 20s provided experience with emotional vulnerability, communication skills, and boundary setting that would prove valuable when family relationships later required similar skills and emotional intelligence. These relationships taught me the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationship dynamics, while helping me understand my own values and expectations for how people should treat each other with respect and consideration. The gradual recognition of family relationship patterns and their impact on my development and opportunities occurred slowly during this period, as increased distance and independent perspective enabled me to observe dynamics that had been invisible or normalized during childhood and adolescence. This recognition created both sadness about missed opportunities for different relationships and determination to ensure that future relationships would be based on mutual respect and genuine care, rather than convenience or obligation. Financial goal setting became increasingly important as I recognized that family financial support might not be available indefinitely and that building independent wealth and security would require deliberate planning and disciplined execution over many years. My savings and investment plans reflected modest goals that emphasized security and flexibility rather than aggressive growth or lifestyle inflation that might create financial vulnerability during economic downturns or personal emergencies. The apartment I shared with a roommate after college graduation provided continued experience with independent living, while allowing me to save money and build financial reserves that would prove crucial when family circumstances changed suddenly and dramatically. This living arrangement taught compromise, communication, and shared responsibility skills while maintaining the autonomy and personal space that had become essential for my emotional well-being and continued development. Professional advancement during my first 2 years after college involved transitioning from entry-level positions to increased responsibility and recognition within marketing roles that utilized my education and developing expertise. These advancement opportunities provided both increased income and professional credibility that would later enable me to attract consulting clients and build an independent practice when employment security became less reliable or available. The consulting work I began pursuing as supplemental income during evenings and weekends provided experience with client relationship management, project delivery, and business development that would prove invaluable when consulting became my primary income source. These early projects taught me the importance of clear communication, reliable delivery, and professional presentation that distinguishes successful consultants from those who struggle to build sustainable practices. Industry knowledge and expertise development through continued education, professional reading, and practical application enabled me to provide genuine value to consulting clients while building reputation and referral networks that would support business growth and stability. This expertise development required significant time investment and intellectual curiosity that reflected my commitment to professional excellence and long-term career success. The personal confidence and professional identity that emerged during this period of independent development created a foundation for self-worth and capability that would prove essential when family relationships later challenged my sense of belonging and value within the family structure. This confidence was based on demonstrated achievement and genuine competence rather than external validation or family approval, making it more resilient when family support and recognition disappeared. The growing awareness that my family relationships were not providing the mutual support and respect that characterize healthy adult family dynamics created emotional preparation for the possibility that those relationships might change or end if conflicts could not be resolved through communication and compromise. This awareness was painful, but necessary for developing the emotional independence that would enable me to make difficult decisions based on my own values and interests, rather than family expectations or approval. The combination of professional skills, financial resources, emotional independence, and personal confidence that I had developed by age 25 created the foundation that would enable me to survive and eventually thrive when my parents' decision to prioritize Nicole's needs over my stability forced me to choose between accepting diminished status within the family or pursuing complete independence outside their household and support system. This foundation had been built through years of gradual development and increasing independence that prepared me for challenges I had not anticipated, but that ultimately became the catalyst for achieving levels of success and personal satisfaction that might never have been possible if I had remained dependent on family approval and support throughout my adult development and career advancement. The first indication that my carefully constructed adult relationship with my family was about to undergo fundamental transformation arrived through a seemingly innocent phone call from my mother on a Tuesday evening in March. I had just returned from a particularly successful client meeting where I had secured a 6-month contract that would significantly boost my consulting income and provide the financial cushion I had been working toward for months. The satisfaction of professional achievement and growing independence felt substantial and validating as I settled into my apartment for a quiet evening of project planning and personal reflection. Patricia's voice carried an unusual tension that immediately captured my attention, though her words initially seemed to convey positive family news rather than the harbinger of disruption they would prove to be. Nicole had recently announced her pregnancy, and the family was celebrating this development with the enthusiasm and focus that had characterized their response to every significant milestone in her life. The pregnancy represented not only personal joy for Nicole and her husband Marcus, but also the promise of our parents' first grandchild, a role they had been anticipating with increasing excitement as Nicole approached her late 20s. The conversation began with detailed updates about Nicole's prenatal care, nursery planning discussions, and the various preparations that were consuming her time and attention as she navigated the early months of pregnancy while managing her part-time administrative job at a local medical office. Patricia's enthusiasm for these developments was evident and genuine, reflecting the deep investment she had always maintained in Nicole's happiness and success throughout every phase of her life from childhood through early adulthood, and now into marriage and impending motherhood. Marcus, Nicole's husband of 2 years, worked as a shift supervisor at a manufacturing facility that provided steady employment and benefits, but generated income that required careful budgeting to support their modest lifestyle and future family expenses. Their current apartment was adequate for a couple, but would become cramped and impractical once the baby arrived, particularly given their accumulation of furniture, personal belongings, and the various items that modern parents consider essential for proper childcare and infant development. The housing market in our area had become increasingly expensive during the previous several years, making it difficult for young families with moderate incomes to find affordable homes or larger apartments that could accommodate growing families, without creating financial strain that might affect their long-term stability and quality of life. Nicole and Marcus had been searching for alternative housing options for several months without finding suitable solutions that balanced their space requirements with their financial capabilities and location preferences. This housing challenge had become a source of stress and anxiety for Nicole during her pregnancy, as she worried about bringing a baby home to inadequate living conditions while struggling to identify realistic alternatives that would provide the space and environment she envisioned for her growing family. Her emotional state during pregnancy made these concerns particularly acute, and her distress had become a significant focus of our parents' attention and problem-solving efforts. The solution that had emerged from family discussions and planning sessions involved Nicole, Marcus, and their baby moving into our childhood home temporarily while they saved money for a house down payment and searched for more suitable long-term housing arrangements. This plan would provide them with adequate space, built-in childcare support from grandparents, and the financial relief that would enable them to accumulate resources for eventual homeownership while ensuring that their child would grow up in a stable, supportive environment. The practical logistics of this arrangement had been discussed and refined over several weeks of family conversations that apparently had occurred without my participation or awareness, despite my regular communication. With family members and frequent visits to the family home for dinners and holiday celebrations, the exclusion from these planning discussions should have served as an early warning about my status within the family decision-making hierarchy. But I was initially focused on the positive aspects of having a niece or nephew and supporting Nicole during this important life transition. The guest bedroom that had served as our childhood playroom and later as Nicole's study space during high school would be converted into a nursery for the baby, while Nicole and Marcus would occupy the master guest suite that featured a private bathroom and enough space for their furniture and personal belongings. This arrangement would provide them with privacy and comfort while maintaining easy access to common areas and family support systems that would benefit both the new parents and the grandparents eager to participate in childcare and infant development. The financial benefits of this living arrangement were substantial for Nicole and Marcus, as they would be able to eliminate rent payments and utilities costs while accessing home-cooked meals, laundry facilities, and the various household services that our parents had always provided for family members living in their home. These savings would enable them to accumulate the down payment funds they needed for home ownership, while providing our parents with the daily interaction and involvement they desired with their first grandchild. As Patricia explained these arrangements, with obvious satisfaction and excitement, I began to recognize that my own living situation and relationship with the family home was about to change in ways that had not been discussed with me or presented as topics requiring my input or agreement. The assumption underlying all of this planning was that my childhood bedroom, which I had continued to use during visits and which contained many of my personal belongings and mementos from childhood and adolescence, would become available for Nicole and Marcus to use as additional storage space or as a secondary bedroom if needed. This assumption reflected the family's perception that my independence and separate apartment meant that I no longer required or deserved access to space within the family home, despite my continued financial contributions to family celebrations, my regular presence at family gatherings, and my emotional attachment to the bedroom that represented my history and continued connection to the household where I had grown up and developed my fundamental identity and relationships. The casual manner in which Patricia presented this information suggested that she viewed the displacement of my belongings and elimination of my bedroom access as a minor inconvenience that I should accept gracefully in support of Nicole's greater needs and the family's collective excitement about the coming grandchild. The assumption that I would willingly sacrifice my remaining connection to the family home without discussion or acknowledgement of the emotional significance of this change revealed how little consideration had been given to my feelings or needs during the planning process. When I expressed surprise that these major changes had been planned and decided without consulting me or discussing how they might affect my relationship with the family home, Patricia's response revealed irritation at what she perceived as selfishness and lack of support for Nicole during a vulnerable and important time in her life. The suggestion that I might have legitimate concerns about losing access to my childhood space and belongings was characterized as immature attachment to the past and failure to recognize the priority that should be accorded to Nicole's current needs and future family responsibilities. This initial conversation concluded without resolution, as Patricia indicated that the arrangements had already been finalized, and that she expected me to collect my personal belongings from my bedroom within the next few weeks to accommodate the preparation of space for Nicole's family. The timeline for this transition had been established based on Nicole's preferences and the family's eagerness to complete preparations for the baby's arrival, without consideration of my schedule, emotional readiness, or practical needs related to sorting through and relocating years of accumulated personal items. The days following this conversation were filled with emotional processing and practical planning, as I struggled to understand how my family had reached decisions that would fundamentally alter our relationships without including me in discussions, or acknowledging the impact these changes would have on my connection to the household and family structure. The assumption that my independence meant I no longer required or deserved consideration in family decisions represented a fundamental misunderstanding of how adult family relationships should function when they are based on mutual respect and genuine care for all members' well-being. The practical challenge of removing my belongings from my childhood bedroom required multiple visits to the family home during evenings and weekends, as I sorted through years of accumulated items including school papers, photographs, books, clothing, and various mementos that held emotional significance despite their lack of current practical utility. This process was both physically exhausting and emotionally draining, as each item triggered memories of different phases of my development and reminded me of the experiences and relationships that had shaped my identity within the family structure. During these sorting sessions, I encountered Nicole and Marcus on several occasions as they visited the house to plan their move and prepare for the baby's arrival. Their behavior toward me during these encounters was cordial but distant, reflecting their awareness that my displacement was creating emotional difficulty for me, while maintaining their focus on their own needs and excitement about their future living arrangements. The lack of acknowledgement or appreciation for the sacrifice I was making to accommodate their comfort revealed how normalized the pattern of prioritizing Nicole's needs had become within our family dynamics. My parents' behavior during this transition period reflected a combination of excitement about the coming grandchild and impatience with what they perceived as my reluctance to embrace the changes enthusiastically. David's approach was characteristically practical and focused on logistics rather than emotions, as he helped coordinate the physical arrangements while avoiding discussions about the relationship implications of these decisions. Patricia's behavior alternated between enthusiasm for the baby preparations and defensiveness about the fairness of the arrangements, particularly when I expressed concerns about the process or timeline. The financial implications of these changes became apparent as I realized that my continued contributions to family celebrations, gifts, and occasional assistance with household expenses were expected to continue, despite my diminished status and access within the family structure. The assumption that I should maintain financial generosity while accepting reduced consideration and inclusion reflected the family's perception that my independence obligated me to provide support without receiving equivalent care or attention in return. The emotional impact of this transition extended beyond the immediate logistical challenges to include a fundamental reassessment of my relationships with family members and my expectations for how those relationships should function as we all navigated adult responsibilities and changing life circumstances. The realization that my needs and feelings were considered secondary to Nicole's comfort and preferences forced me to confront patterns that had existed throughout our childhood, but had become more problematic as adult decisions carried greater consequences for long-term relationships and individual well-being. Professional obligations provided some distraction from family tensions during this period, as I focused on client work and business development activities that offered validation and progress toward goals that were entirely within my control. The contrast between professional relationships based on mutual benefit and clear expectations and family relationships characterized by assumptions and unequal consideration became increasingly apparent and troubling as I navigated both spheres. Simultaneously, the social implications of these family changes affected my friendships and dating relationships, as I struggled to explain the situation to people who expressed surprise that a middle-class family would displace one adult child to accommodate another without apparent consideration for the displaced person's feelings or needs. These conversations helped me recognize that the family dynamics I had normalized throughout my childhood were not typical or healthy patterns in functional adult family relationships. The completion of my bedroom clearing process required several weeks of evening and weekend work, during which I transported years of accumulated belongings to my apartment and arranged for storage or disposal of items that no longer fit my current lifestyle or living space limitations. This physical transition marked the end of my childhood connection to the family home while creating space for Nicole's family to establish their presence within the household that had previously accommodated multiple generations and perspectives. The final conversation with my parents about this transition occurred during a family dinner that felt strained and uncomfortable, as everyone attempted to maintain normalcy while acknowledging that fundamental changes had occurred in our relationships and household arrangements. Patricia's attempts to frame these changes as positive developments that would benefit everyone involved contrasted sharply with the obvious tension and my evident unhappiness with how the process had been handled and the assumptions that had guided family decision-making. The weeks that followed Nicole and Marcus's move into the family home provided opportunities to observe how the new living arrangements affected family dynamics and relationships. Nicole's pregnancy progressed smoothly with the benefit of daily support and attention from our parents, who enthusiastically embraced their roles as involved grandparents-to-be and primary support system for the young couple navigating their first pregnancy and preparation for parenthood. The increased focus on Nicole's needs and daily experiences meant that family conversations during my visits centered almost exclusively on pregnancy updates, baby preparations, and discussions about childcare approaches and parenting philosophies that would guide their decisions after the baby's arrival. These conversations provided little space for updates about my professional activities, personal relationships, or individual concerns that might require family support or attention. The gradual realization that my role within the family had shifted from daughter and sister to peripheral supporter became increasingly apparent through these interactions, as my contributions to conversations were acknowledged politely, but did not generate the interest or follow-up questions that characterized family members' responses to Nicole's updates and concerns. This shift in attention and engagement reflected broader changes in how family relationships were functioning and what expectations existed for different family members' involvement and priority within household discussions and decision-making. The holiday celebrations that occurred during this period provided additional evidence of how my status within the family had changed, as traditions and arrangements were modified to accommodate Nicole's pregnancy needs and preferences while my suggestions or concerns about changes were dismissed or ignored. The assumption that I should adapt flexibly to whatever arrangement suited Nicole's comfort contrasted sharply with the careful consideration given to her preferences and requirements. In every aspect of family planning and preparation, the birth announcement, when it finally arrived, triggered mixed emotions as I celebrated the arrival of my niece Emma, while simultaneously recognizing that this event would further solidify the family arrangements and priorities that had displaced me from my previous position within the household and relationships. The overwhelming focus on the baby and new parents meant that any concerns about fairness or family relationship dynamics would be seen as inappropriate and selfish during what should be a purely celebratory time. The postpartum period brought increased demands on my parents' time and attention, as they provided childcare support, household assistance, and emotional support for Nicole during her recovery and adjustment to motherhood. The intensity of this support and involvement meant that our parents had less availability for maintaining relationships with me, though they continued to expect my participation in family gatherings and my contributions to gift-giving and celebration activities. The growing recognition that these changes represented permanent alterations to family dynamics rather than temporary accommodations became unavoidable as months passed, and no discussions occurred about Nicole's family eventually moving to independent housing or reducing their dependence on parental support and resources. The assumption that the current arrangements would continue indefinitely meant that my displacement from the family home and reduced status within family relationships had become the new normal rather than a temporary sacrifice for Nicole's benefit. This recognition forced me to confront fundamental questions about what I expected from family relationships and whether those expectations were realistic, given the established patterns and priorities that had been demonstrated through recent decisions and ongoing interactions. The need to develop new approaches to family involvement that protected my emotional well-being while maintaining connections with people I cared about became an urgent priority as I recognized that waiting for family dynamics to return to previous patterns was unrealistic and potentially harmful to my continued development and happiness. The conversation that would permanently alter my relationship with my family occurred on a humid Saturday afternoon in August, approximately 4 months after Emma's birth, and 6 months after Nicole and Marcus had established residence in my childhood home. The timing of this confrontation was not coincidental, as the summer months had provided ample opportunity for me to observe how the family dynamics had solidified around the new living arrangements, and to recognize that my hopes for eventual restoration of balanced relationships were increasingly unrealistic. I had requested this family meeting through a carefully worded email sent to both parents the previous week, explaining that I needed to discuss some concerns about our current family arrangements and my role within the household structure. The formal nature of this communication reflected my growing understanding that casual conversations and indirect approaches had proven ineffective for addressing the fundamental issues that were affecting my relationship with family members and my sense of belonging within our shared history and traditions. The email had generated some tension and defensive responses from my parents, who interpreted my request for a formal discussion as criticism of their parenting decisions and ungrateful behavior toward the generous accommodations they had made for Nicole's family during a crucial period of adjustment and financial challenge. Their reaction revealed the extent to which they had reframed the situation to position themselves as generous benefactors rather than parents who had displaced one child to accommodate another without meaningful consultation or consideration. David and Patricia were waiting in the family room when I arrived, their posture and expressions indicating their expectation that this conversation would involve my acknowledgement of previous unreasonable behavior and my commitment to more supportive and understanding responses to family decisions. The assumption that I had requested this meeting to apologize, rather than to establish boundaries or express legitimate concerns, demonstrated how thoroughly they had convinced themselves that their actions had been entirely appropriate and justified. Nicole and Marcus were present as well, having been invited to participate in what my parents had apparently characterized as a family discussion about improving relationships and ensuring everyone's comfort with the current living arrangements. Their presence transformed what I had envisioned as a conversation between adult children and parents into a family tribunal, where I would be expected to defend my concerns while facing unified opposition from family members who had benefited from the decisions that had disadvantaged me. The formal beginning of this conversation involved my careful explanation of how the previous months had affected my relationship with the family and my sense of belonging within the household that had been my primary source of identity and emotional security throughout my childhood and early adult development. I emphasized that my concerns were not about the practical arrangements themselves, but about the process by which major decisions had been made without my input, and the assumptions that had guided those decisions about my needs and feelings. Patricia's immediate response revealed the defensive framework that would characterize the entire family's approach to this discussion, as she reframed my concerns as selfish complaints about arrangements that were clearly beneficial for everyone, involved and necessary for supporting Nicole during a vulnerable period of her life. The suggestion that I should be grateful for the opportunity to demonstrate maturity and family loyalty through sacrifice and understanding positioned my legitimate concerns as character defects that reflected poorly on my values and commitment to family relationships. David's contribution to this discussion focused on the practical benefits of the current arrangements, including the financial savings that enabled Nicole and Marcus to prepare for homeownership, while providing our parents with daily involvement in their grandchild's development and care. His analysis treated family relationships as resource allocation problems that should be resolved through efficiency maximization rather than emotional considerations or principles of fairness and mutual respect that characterize healthy adult relationships. The most painful aspect of this conversation was Nicole's participation, as she characterized my concerns as attempts to create problems during what should be a happy period of family growth and celebration. Her inability or unwillingness to acknowledge that her comfort and security had been achieved through my displacement revealed how thoroughly she had absorbed the family's narrative that positioned her needs as naturally and appropriately taking precedence over mine in any situation, requiring choice or resource allocation. Marcus maintained relative silence throughout most of this discussion, though his presence served to reinforce the family's unity in opposition to my concerns and to demonstrate that the current arrangements enjoyed support from all family members, except the one who had been most significantly affected by them. His obvious comfort with living arrangements that had been achieved through another person's sacrifice revealed character traits that would prove relevant to understanding the family dynamics that had enabled this situation to develop and persist. The central issue that emerged during this conversation was the fundamental disagreement about whether adult family members should expect consultation and consideration when major decisions affect their relationships and status within the family structure. My position that such consultation represented basic respect and healthy communication was characterized by my parents as unrealistic expectations that failed to acknowledge the practical necessities of managing complex family situations and competing needs among multiple family members. The financial implications of the current arrangements became a significant focus of discussion when I pointed out that my continued contributions to family celebrations, gifts, and household expenses had not been reduced, despite my diminished status and access within the family structure. The expectation that I should maintain financial generosity while accepting reduced consideration revealed the family's perception that my independence obligated me to provide support without receiving equivalent care or recognition in return. Patricia's response to these financial concerns involved detailed explanations of the costs associated with supporting Nicole's family and the sacrifices that she and David were making to provide childcare and household assistance during the baby's early months. This response treated my contributions as insignificant compared to their efforts, while ignoring the fundamental difference between voluntary support provided by parents who had chosen to host adult children and expected contributions from a displaced family member who continued providing support despite receiving reduced consideration. The discussion of my professional achievements and growing consulting success became another source of tension when I explained that my career development had provided me with options and resources that enabled me to consider alternative approaches to family involvement if current relationships could not be modified to include greater mutual respect and consideration. The family's response to this information revealed their assumption that my success should increase my willingness to support family arrangements, rather than providing me with alternatives to accepting unsatisfactory relationship dynamics. David's analysis of my career progress focused primarily on how my increased income and professional flexibility could benefit family financial planning and support for Nicole's family, rather than acknowledging my achievements as evidence of capabilities and judgment that should influence how family decisions were made and how my opinions were valued within family discussions. This response demonstrated his inability to perceive me as an independent adult, whose success had earned her consideration and respect, rather than simply increased capacity for family contribution. The conversation reached its crisis point when I directly stated that the current family arrangements were unsustainable for me, and that significant changes would need to occur if I were to continue participating in family relationships and activities at previous levels of involvement and financial contribution. This clear communication of boundaries and expectations generated immediate and intense resistance from all family members, who interpreted my position as ultimatum-giving and manipulation designed to force compliance with unreasonable demands for attention and accommodation. Nicole's emotional response to my boundary setting involved tears and accusations that I was trying to damage her relationship with our parents and create problems for her family during a period when she needed support and stability for her child's well-being. Her characterization of my request for consideration and respect as attacks on her security revealed how thoroughly she had absorbed the family's zero-sum approach to relationships, where any attention or consideration directed toward me necessarily reduced what was available for her benefit and comfort. Patricia's escalation of emotional intensity during this phase of the conversation involved accusations that I was demonstrating selfishness and immaturity that reflected poorly on the values and character development that she had attempted to instill during my childhood. Her suggestion that my current concerns represented failures in my moral development positioned the family's treatment of me as justified response to my personal deficiencies rather than problematic behavior that required acknowledgement and modification. The ultimatum that emerged from this conversation was delivered jointly by my parents, who informed me that I could either accept the current family arrangements gracefully and demonstrate appropriate support for Nicole's family, or I could reduce my involvement in family activities and relationships to levels that would not create stress or conflict for other family members. This choice was presented as my decision, though the alternatives were clearly designed to force my compliance with existing arrangements rather than to address any of the concerns I had raised. The 2-week timeline they established for my decision reflected their expectation that reasonable consideration would lead me to recognize the appropriateness of their position and choose continued family involvement on their terms rather than pursuing alternatives that would disrupt established patterns and create inconvenience for family members who were satisfied with current arrangements. The assumption that I would ultimately choose family connection over personal dignity revealed their fundamental misunderstanding of how my character and values had developed during years of independence and professional success. The immediate aftermath of this conversation involved a period of intense emotional processing, as I confronted the reality that my family was willing to lose my participation rather than modify their behavior to include greater consideration for my needs and feelings. The recognition that my relationship with family members had been conditional on my acceptance of subordinate status forced me to evaluate whether maintaining these connections was worth the personal cost of continued diminished treatment and reduced respect. The practical implications of this ultimatum extended beyond emotional considerations to include financial planning, social relationships, and holiday traditions that would need to be modified if I chose reduced family involvement rather than continued acceptance of unsatisfactory treatment. The complexity of these implications required careful analysis and strategic thinking about how to maintain personal integrity while managing the practical consequences of boundary enforcement. Professional obligations provided some stability during this period of personal crisis, as client relationships and business development activities continued generating income and validation that contrasted sharply with the family dynamics that questioned my judgment and characterized my concerns as unreasonable demands for special treatment. The success and respect I had earned through professional competence and reliable service delivery provided a foundation for self-worth that was independent of family approval or recognition. The decision-making process that occupied the following 2 weeks involved extensive analysis of my values, priorities, and long-term objectives for personal development and relationship satisfaction. The choice between family connection and personal dignity was not simple or obvious, as both alternatives involved significant costs and benefits that would affect multiple aspects of my life and future opportunities for happiness and fulfillment. Consultation with trusted friends and professional mentors provided external perspectives on the situation that helped me understand how my family's behavior compared to healthy relationship patterns and what alternatives existed for managing family conflicts that involved fundamental disagreements about respect and consideration. These discussions revealed that my family's approach to conflict resolution was not typical of healthy adult family relationships, and that my concerns were legitimate and reasonable. The financial analysis of independence versus family involvement revealed that my consulting income and accumulated savings provided sufficient resources for complete financial independence, though continued family involvement would have offered some economic benefits and social advantages that would be lost if I chose to reduce my participation in family activities and relationships. The recognition that I could afford to prioritize personal dignity over economic convenience was liberating and empowering. The final decision emerged gradually, as I recognized that accepting my family's ultimatum would require compromising values and self-respect that had become fundamental to my identity and professional success. The person who had built a successful consulting practice through integrity, reliability, and genuine care for client relationships could not simultaneously accept family treatment that violated those same principles and maintain consistent character and self-perception. The conversation in which I communicated my decision to my parents was brief and focused, as I explained that I would be reducing my involvement in family activities and relationships to levels that allowed me to maintain personal dignity and self-respect while avoiding conflict and stress for other family members. This communication was delivered calmly and professionally, reflecting my recognition that emotional intensity would not improve the situation or change their fundamental approach to family relationships. Patricia's response to my decision involved immediate attempts to characterize my choice as temporary emotional reaction that would be reversed once I had time to consider the consequences and recognize the importance of family relationships over personal pride and individual concerns. Her inability to acknowledge that my decision was based on carefully considered values and principles rather than temporary emotional distress revealed the depth of her misunderstanding about my character development and decision-making processes. David's reaction focused on the practical implications of my reduced involvement, including the financial contributions and participation in family activities that would be affected by my withdrawal from full engagement with family events and celebrations. His concern about these practical losses contrasted sharply with his lack of interest in addressing the relationship issues that had created the need for boundary establishment and reduced involvement. Nicole's emotional response to my decision involved accusations that I was punishing her family and damaging her relationship with our parents through selfish behavior that prioritized my individual concerns over family harmony and collective well-being. Her inability to recognize that my decision was designed to reduce conflict rather than create problems revealed how thoroughly she had absorbed the family's narrative that positioned any assertion of my needs as attacks on other family members' security and happiness. The immediate implementation of my decision involved practical arrangements for reducing my participation in family gatherings, modifying my financial contributions to family activities, and establishing communication patterns that maintained necessary connections while protecting my emotional well-being and avoiding situations that would create stress or conflict for any family members. The weeks that followed this decision provided opportunities to evaluate how reduced family involvement affected my overall life satisfaction and personal development, as I redirected time and emotional energy previously invested in family relationships toward professional development, personal friendships, and individual activities that provided fulfillment and growth opportunities without the stress and frustration that had characterized recent family interactions. The liberation that accompanied this boundary establishment was both surprising and validating, as I discovered that my identity and happiness were not as dependent on family approval and involvement as I had previously believed. The recognition that I could thrive independently while maintaining limited family contact provided confidence and self-assurance that would prove valuable during the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead in both personal and professional development. The first morning after establishing complete independence from family expectations and obligations brought both exhilaration and uncertainty, as I confronted the reality that my life would now be shaped entirely by my own decisions and capabilities, rather than family approval or external validation. The silence of my apartment felt different than it had during previous periods of reduced family contact, carrying the weight of permanent change rather than temporary disagreement that might eventually be resolved through compromise or reconciliation. The immediate practical implications of my decision required systematic attention to financial planning, social relationships, and professional development that would need to compensate for the support systems and connections that family involvement had previously provided. While my consulting income was sufficient for independent living, the elimination of family financial contributions to holidays, celebrations, and emergency situations meant that my personal budget would need to accommodate expenses that had previously been shared or subsidized through family participation. The emotional processing of this transition extended beyond the immediate family conflict to encompass broader questions about identity, belonging, and the sources of validation that had previously anchored my self-perception and future planning. The recognition that I had been unconsciously depending on family approval and inclusion for emotional security revealed aspects of my personality and development that required attention and strengthening if I were to thrive as a completely independent adult. Professional obligations provided immediate structure and purpose during this period of personal transition, as client relationships and business development activities offered validation and progress toward goals that were entirely within my control and dependent on my own capabilities rather than external approval or support. The contrast between professional relationships based on mutual benefit and clear expectations and family relationships characterized by assumptions and conditional acceptance became increasingly apparent and motivating. The consulting practice that I had developed as supplemental income during my employment years now required expansion and systematization to serve as my primary source of financial security and professional identity. This transformation from part-time consulting to full-time independent practice demanded strategic planning, market analysis, and business development skills that would test my capabilities while providing opportunities for growth and achievement that had no connection to family dynamics or approval. Client acquisition became a primary focus, as I recognized that business growth would require systematic networking, referral development, and service delivery excellence that would establish reputation and generate sustainable income streams, independent of family connections or support. The small business owners and entrepreneurs who comprised my target market valued competence, reliability, and results rather than personal background or family connections, creating evaluation criteria that aligned with my strengths and professional development. The digital marketing expertise that I had developed through formal education and practical experience positioned me well to serve clients who needed sophisticated online presence and customer acquisition strategies, but lacked the resources to employ full-time marketing staff or engage large consulting firms. This market positioning provided competitive advantages while enabling me to work with business owners who shared similar values of independence, determination, and results-oriented thinking. Service delivery systematization required development of processes, procedures, and quality control measures that would ensure consistent client satisfaction while enabling efficient project management across multiple concurrent engagements. The attention to detail and systematic thinking that had characterized my approach to family responsibilities now served professional objectives that provided both personal satisfaction and financial rewards for excellence and reliability. The home office setup that I established in my apartment reflected my commitment to professional excellence and client service while accommodating the practical requirements of independent consulting practice. The investment in quality equipment, software systems, and organizational tools demonstrated my confidence in the long-term viability of independent practice, while creating working conditions that supported productivity and professional presentation during client communications and project delivery. Financial management became increasingly sophisticated as I transitioned from employee income supplemented by consulting revenues to complete dependence on independent business income that fluctuated based on client acquisition, project completion, and market conditions. The budgeting and cash flow management skills that I had developed during college and early career now required adaptation to the unique challenges of entrepreneurial income variability and business expense management. Emergency fund development assumed greater importance as I recognized that independent practice provided no sick leave, vacation pay, or employment security beyond my own capabilities and market demand for my services. The discipline required to maintain substantial financial reserves while managing business expenses and personal living costs tested my commitment to long-term security over short-term lifestyle enhancement or convenience. Business insurance and legal protection became necessary considerations as my consulting practice grew and client relationships involved greater financial stakes and professional liability exposure. The research and decision-making required to establish appropriate insurance coverage and legal structures provided education in business management that would prove valuable throughout my entrepreneurial development and professional growth. Marketing and business development activities required skills and approaches that differed significantly from the technical consulting work that generated client value and satisfaction. The need to identify prospects, communicate value propositions, and develop relationships that would generate referrals and repeat business demanded personal marketing capabilities that extended beyond technical competence to include communication, skills, relationship building, and strategic positioning. Professional networking became essential for business development, as I recognized that referrals and word-of-mouth recommendations would provide the most cost-effective and sustainable source of new client acquisition. The industry associations, business organizations, and informal networking groups that I joined provided opportunities to build relationships with potential clients and referral sources while developing knowledge about market trends and competitive dynamics. The personal confidence and professional presence that I developed through successful client delivery and business growth created positive reinforcement cycles that strengthened my belief in independent capabilities while reducing any lingering dependence on family validation or approval for self-worth and identity formation. Each successful project and satisfied client provided evidence that my value and competence were recognized and rewarded in professional contexts that had no connection to family relationships or historical patterns. Social relationship development outside family structures required conscious effort and strategic thinking, as I recognized that professional success alone would not provide the personal connections and emotional support that contribute to overall life satisfaction and psychological well-being. The friendships and social activities that I had previously balanced with family obligations now required increased attention and investment to compensate for reduced family involvement. The professional associations and industry groups that supported my business development also provided opportunities for personal relationships with individuals who shared similar career ambitions and values related to independence, professional excellence, and entrepreneurial thinking. These relationships often evolved beyond business networking to include personal friendships based on shared experiences and mutual respect for individual achievement and character. Dating relationships during this period of independence provided opportunities to practice communication skills and boundary establishment that had been developed through family conflict resolution while exploring romantic connections with individuals who were attracted to confidence, independence, and professional success rather than family connections or inherited status. The personal growth that resulted from family boundary establishment translated into more authentic and satisfying romantic relationships. Community involvement through volunteer activities and civic organizations provided opportunities to contribute to causes that aligned with my values while building relationships and social connections that were entirely separate from both family and professional contexts. These activities provided perspective on social issues and community needs while demonstrating how individual capabilities could generate positive impact through service and leadership. The physical fitness and personal wellness activities that I had previously managed around family obligations and professional responsibilities now received increased attention and investment, as I recognized their importance for sustaining the energy and mental clarity required for independent business success. The gym membership, nutrition planning, and stress management practices that I implemented provided foundation for long-term health and productivity. Educational development through professional courses, industry certifications, and skill enhancement programs became both business necessity and personal satisfaction as I invested in capabilities that would support consulting practice growth. while providing intellectual stimulation and achievement satisfaction. The continuous learning mindset that had served me well during college and early career now focused entirely on professional development that would benefit my own objectives rather than family expectations or approval. Travel opportunities that had previously been limited by family obligations and shared vacation planning now provided freedom to explore destinations and experiences that aligned with my personal interests and professional development objectives. The business conferences, educational workshops, and personal travel that I pursued during this period provided both practical benefits and personal satisfaction that reinforced the advantages of independent decision-making. Financial investment and wealth-building strategies received increased attention as I recognized that independent practice success could generate resources that would provide long-term security and financial freedom beyond what employee income could typically achieve. The investment accounts, retirement planning, and wealth accumulation strategies that I implemented reflected confidence in continued business success while providing motivation for sustained professional excellence. The apartment lease renewal that occurred during this period prompted consideration of housing alternatives that would better serve my independent lifestyle and business requirements while reflecting my improved financial circumstances and personal preferences. The decision to remain in my current location while upgrading furnishings and amenities demonstrated commitment to stability while acknowledging professional success and increased resources. Technology upgrades and equipment investments that supported both business operations and personal convenience reflected my growing confidence in independent income sustainability while providing tools that enhanced productivity and quality of life. The computer systems, software applications, and communication tools that I acquired during this period enabled business growth while demonstrating commitment to professional excellence and client service. The tax planning and business structure optimization that became necessary as consulting income increased provided education in business management and financial planning that would serve long-term wealth building and professional development objectives. The accountant and legal advisor relationships that I established during this period provided expert guidance while demonstrating the importance of professional support systems for independent business success. Personal achievement recognition. Through industry awards, client testimonials, and professional acknowledgments provided external validation of business success while reinforcing confidence in independent capabilities and market value. These recognitions often led to speaking opportunities, publication requests, and consulting engagements that expanded business visibility and professional reputation. The holiday seasons during this first year of complete independence provided opportunities to establish new traditions and social activities that reflected personal preferences rather than family expectations or obligations. The celebrations, travel, and activities that I chose during these periods provided satisfaction and enjoyment, while demonstrating that meaningful experiences could be created independently of family participation or approval. Year-end reflection. On the transformation that had occurred during this period of complete independence revealed substantial personal growth, professional development, and life satisfaction improvements that validated the difficult decision to prioritize personal dignity over family approval. The business success, personal relationships, and individual achievements that had accumulated during this period provided foundation for continued growth and future opportunities that were entirely within my control and dependent on my own capabilities and decisions. The second year of independent consulting practice marked a critical transition from survival-focused business operations to strategic growth and market positioning that would establish my firm as a recognized leader in digital marketing solutions for emerging businesses. The confidence and competence that had developed during the initial year of complete independence now provided foundation for expansion initiatives that would test my capabilities while generating opportunities for professional recognition and financial advancement that exceeded my original projections and expectations. Client retention rates during this period reflected the systematic approach to service delivery and relationship management that I had implemented during the foundational phase of business development. The comprehensive project documentation, regular communication protocols, and results measurement systems that I had established created client satisfaction levels that generated consistent referrals and contract renewals without significant marketing investment or competitive pricing. Pressure. This organic growth pattern provided validation of my service quality while creating predictable revenue streams that supported strategic planning and business expansion initiatives. The specialization strategy that emerged during this period focused on serving technology startups and innovative small businesses that required sophisticated digital marketing expertise but lacked the resources to employ full-time marketing teams or engage large consulting firms with overhead structures that made their services prohibitively expensive for emerging companies. This market positioning created competitive advantages while enabling me to work with entrepreneurs and business leaders who shared similar values related to innovation, efficiency, and results-oriented thinking. Industry recognition began accumulating as my client success stories and innovative approaches to digital marketing challenges attracted attention from business publications, professional associations, and conference organizers who sought speakers and contributors with proven expertise and practical experience. These recognition opportunities provided marketing benefits while establishing credibility and thought leadership that differentiated my services from competitors who relied primarily on credentials rather than demonstrated results and client satisfaction. The speaking engagements that resulted from professional recognition provided opportunities to share knowledge and insights while building relationships with potential clients and referral sources throughout the regional business community. The preparation and delivery of these presentations required communication skills and subject matter expertise that reinforced my confidence while providing external validation of my professional capabilities and market value. Business systems. Optimization became increasingly important as client load and project complexity expanded beyond what manual processes and informal procedures could effectively manage. The customer relationship management software, project management platforms, and financial tracking systems that I implemented during this period provided operational efficiency while ensuring consistent service quality across multiple concurrent client engagements and varying project requirements. The office space expansion that became necessary as business growth exceeded my apartment-based workspace capacity provided opportunities to create professional environments that supported both productivity and client presentations while reflecting the success and credibility that my practice had achieved. The lease negotiation and space design decisions involved strategic thinking about business image and operational requirements while demonstrating commitment to continued growth and professional excellence. Staff expansion considerations emerged as project volume and client demands approached the limits of what individual effort could sustain, while maintaining quality standards and response times that had become hallmarks of my service delivery. The evaluation of potential employees and contractors required assessment of capabilities and cultural fit, while considering the financial implications and management responsibilities that would accompany staff additions to previously independent operations. The first hire that I made during this expansion phase was a talented recent graduate with digital marketing education and internship experience who demonstrated potential for development while requiring supervision and training that would test my leadership capabilities and management skills. The recruitment, onboarding, and performance management processes that I developed for this position provided foundation for future hiring decisions while creating systems that could accommodate continued staff growth as business expansion warranted additional personnel. Training and development programs that I created for staff members reflected my commitment to professional excellence, while providing career advancement opportunities that would support employee retention and satisfaction. The investment in employee education and skill development often exceeded industry standards, but generated loyalty and performance levels that justified the additional costs while creating competitive advantages through superior service delivery and client relationship management. Financial management sophistication increased substantially as business income reached levels that required tax planning, investment strategies, and wealth-building approaches that differed significantly from employee income management or small business cash flow administration. The accounting systems and advisory relationships that I established during this period provided expert guidance while demonstrating the importance of professional financial management for sustained business success and personal wealth accumulation. Investment portfolio development became both practical necessity and personal satisfaction, as business success generated surplus income that required strategic allocation across asset classes and risk levels that would provide long-term security, while supporting continued business growth and personal financial objectives. The research and decision-making required for investment management provided education in financial markets, while creating wealth accumulation that exceeded what traditional employment could typically generate. Real estate investment opportunities emerged as my financial resources and credit profile enabled property acquisition that would provide both investment returns and potential business expansion options. The analysis and evaluation of commercial and residential properties required market research and financial modeling that provided valuable experience while creating additional income streams and wealth-building opportunities. Professional development activities during this period included advanced certifications, industry conferences, and continuing education programs that enhanced my expertise while providing networking opportunities and market intelligence that supported business strategy and competitive positioning. The investment in professional education often required significant time and financial commitments, but generated returns through improved service capabilities and expanded business opportunities. The mentorship relationships that I began developing with other successful entrepreneurs and business leaders provided guidance and perspective that accelerated my learning while creating personal connections that extended beyond immediate business. Benefits to include friendship and mutual support during challenging periods and major decisions. These relationships often evolved through professional associations and industry events, but provided value that extended far beyond networking or business development objectives. Community leadership roles that I accepted during this period provided opportunities to contribute expertise and resources while building relationships and visibility that supported both personal satisfaction and business development objectives. The involvement in economic development initiatives, professional associations, and civic organizations required time investments, but generated recognition and connections that often translated into business opportunities and personal fulfillment. Awards and recognition that accumulated during this period included business excellence honors, professional achievement acknowledgments, and community leadership recognitions that provided external validation while creating marketing opportunities and credibility that supported continued business growth and market positioning. These acknowledgments often led to additional speaking opportunities, media attention, and business referrals that justified the effort required to maintain excellence standards worthy of recognition. The business plan refinement and strategic planning that occurred during this period reflected increased sophistication in market analysis, competitive positioning, and growth projections that would guide future expansion decisions and resource allocation. The formal planning processes that I implemented provided structure for decision-making while creating accountability systems that ensured consistent progress toward defined objectives and measurable outcomes. Technology integration and digital infrastructure development became increasingly important as business growth and client sophistication required advanced capabilities and seamless user experiences that would differentiate my services while improving operational efficiency and service delivery quality. The software systems and hardware investments that I made during this period often exceeded immediate requirements, but positioned the business for continued growth while demonstrating commitment to innovation and excellence. Client success measurement and case study development provided concrete evidence of business impact while creating marketing materials that supported new client acquisition and referral generation. The systematic documentation of client results required analytical skills and presentation capabilities that reinforced my expertise while providing tools for business development and thought leadership activities. Strategic partnerships with complementary service providers created opportunities for collaboration and referral exchange that expanded my service capabilities while providing additional revenue streams and business development opportunities. The evaluation and management of these partnerships required relationship skills and strategic thinking that contributed to business growth while providing learning experiences that enhanced my understanding of collaborative business models and market dynamics. The personal lifestyle improvements that became possible through business success included housing upgrades, travel opportunities, and leisure activities that provided satisfaction and motivation, while demonstrating the practical benefits of entrepreneurial achievement and independent business ownership. These improvements reflected personal preferences and values, while providing examples of what disciplined business development and professional excellence could generate over time. Professional wardrobe and personal presentation investments that became appropriate as business success increased provided confidence while creating favorable impressions during client meetings and professional events. The attention to professional image and personal branding required strategic thinking about market positioning, while demonstrating respect for clients and business relationships. The charitable giving and community contribution that became possible through increased income provided opportunities to support causes that aligned with my values while creating positive community impact and personal satisfaction. The strategic approach to philanthropy that I developed during this period reflected consideration of both personal values and community needs, while providing tax benefits and recognition opportunities that supported overall business objectives. Financial advisory relationships that I established during this period provided expert guidance for wealth management and tax planning, while creating accountability systems that ensured disciplined approaches to financial decision-making and long-term security planning. The investment in professional financial advice often exceeded immediate requirements, but provided foundation for sustained wealth building and business growth support. International business opportunities that emerged during this period included clients with global operations and service requirements that expanded my expertise while providing revenue growth and professional development opportunities. The cross-cultural communication and international business practices that I developed through these engagements enhanced my capabilities while creating competitive advantages and market differentiation. The business evaluation and potential acquisition opportunities that became available as my financial resources and market position strengthened provided options for accelerated growth and market expansion that could complement organic development strategies. The analysis and evaluation of these opportunities required strategic thinking and financial modeling, while providing education in business valuation and acquisition processes that would prove valuable for future decision-making and strategic planning. The third year of complete independence from family dynamics brought unprecedented professional achievements and personal satisfaction that validated every difficult decision I had made regarding boundary establishment and relationship prioritization. During this period, my consulting firm achieved recognition as one of the region's fastest-growing digital marketing agencies, generating annual revenue that exceeded 6 figures while maintaining client satisfaction ratings and employee retention, levels that positioned us as an industry leader in both performance and workplace culture. The geographic distance I had maintained from family interactions provided emotional space for objective observation of their circumstances through limited social media contact and occasional updates from mutual acquaintances who remained connected to both my professional circles and family social networks. These indirect information sources revealed patterns of financial stress and relationship tension that contrasted sharply with the stable prosperity and harmonious working relationships that characterized my independent business operations and personal life. Nicole's social media presence during this period reflected ongoing struggles with the practical realities of raising a young child while managing household responsibilities and attempting to maintain part-time employment that provided supplemental income for her growing family. The frequent posts requesting advice about childcare challenges, budget management difficulties, and relationship stress suggested that the family living arrangement that had displaced me was creating pressures and complications that had not been anticipated during the initial planning and decision-making processes. Marcus's employment situation appeared increasingly unstable, based on occasional references to shift reductions, overtime availability changes, and concerns about manufacturing industry trends that affected his company's production levels and Staffing requirements. The economic uncertainty that seemed to characterize his work environment contrasted with the predictable revenue growth and expanding client base that provided security and confidence in my independent business operations. My parents' social media activity revealed increased focus on grandparent responsibilities and household management duties that suggested their retirement plans and personal activities had been significantly modified to accommodate the ongoing presence of Nicole's family within their home. The photographs and updates that they shared indicated substantial time and energy investments in childcare and domestic support that extended beyond typical grandparent involvement to include primary caregiver responsibilities during working hours. The financial implications of supporting 3 additional household members became apparent through subtle indicators such as reduced spending on discretionary activities, deferred home maintenance projects, and modifications to vacation and leisure plans that previously had been regular features of my parents' retirement lifestyle. These observations suggested that the temporary financial arrangement that had justified my displacement was creating long-term economic pressures that affected their personal financial security and retirement planning. Professional networking events and industry conferences during this period occasionally brought me into contact with individuals who had personal or business connections to my family members, providing opportunities for discreet information gathering about their circumstances without direct communication or involvement that might create complications or emotional stress for any parties involved. These encounters revealed that my family's situation was becoming a topic of community concern and discussion, particularly regarding the sustainability of multi-generational living arrangements and their impact on various family members' well-being and future planning. The business expansion that I undertook during this period included office relocation to a prestigious downtown location that provided enhanced professional image and improved accessibility for clients while demonstrating the success and stability that my firm had achieved through strategic planning and service excellence. The lease negotiation and space customization decisions reflected confidence in continued growth, while creating working environments that supported both productivity and client relationship development. Staff expansion continued with the addition of 2 experienced marketing professionals whose expertise and client management capabilities enabled us to serve larger accounts and more complex projects while maintaining the personalized attention and service quality that had become our competitive differentiator. The recruitment and integration of these team members required leadership skills and organizational development capabilities that provided personal satisfaction while demonstrating the management competencies that supported continued business growth. Client portfolio diversification during this period included engagement with several Fortune 500 companies that required sophisticated marketing strategies and enterprise-level service delivery capabilities. These relationships provided substantial revenue growth while creating case studies and professional references that enhanced our market reputation and supported additional business development opportunities with similar high-profile clients. Industry recognition reached new levels during this year with invitations to serve on professional association boards, participation in industry standard-setting committees, and requests for expert commentary from business publications and media outlets. These opportunities provided thought leadership positioning, while creating visibility that generated referrals and business development prospects without significant marketing investment or promotional effort. The personal wealth accumulation that resulted from business success enabled real estate investments and portfolio diversification that created passive income streams while providing long-term financial security that exceeded what traditional employment compensation could typically generate. The investment management and tax planning strategies that became necessary at this income level required professional advisory relationships, while demonstrating the practical benefits of entrepreneurial success and independent business ownership. Charitable giving became an increasingly important aspect of personal satisfaction and community contribution, as business success provided resources that enabled meaningful support for causes aligned with my values and interests. The strategic philanthropy that I developed during this period included both financial contributions and volunteer leadership roles that provided personal fulfillment while creating positive community impact and professional networking opportunities. Travel opportunities expanded significantly during this period, including both business-related conferences and personal vacations that provided cultural enrichment and professional development while demonstrating the lifestyle flexibility that successful independent practice could support. The international business relationships and cultural experiences that resulted from this travel often created additional opportunities for business expansion and personal growth. Professional development investments continued with advanced certifications and executive education programs that enhanced strategic thinking capabilities while providing networking opportunities with other successful business leaders and entrepreneurs. These educational experiences often led to mentor relationships and strategic partnerships that supported continued business growth while providing personal satisfaction and intellectual stimulation. The mentorship roles that I began accepting during this period included advising other women entrepreneurs and serving as a guest lecturer at local universities, where I shared practical insights about independent business development and professional success strategies. These teaching and advisory activities provided personal satisfaction while creating visibility and credibility that supported continued business development and thought leadership positioning. Technology infrastructure investments during this period included cutting-edge software systems and hardware platforms that enhanced service delivery capabilities while improving operational efficiency and client communication effectiveness. The commitment to technological excellence often exceeded immediate requirements, but positioned the firm for continued growth while demonstrating innovation and forward thinking that differentiated our services in competitive markets. International expansion opportunities emerged during this period through client relationships and partnership prospects that would extend our service capabilities to global markets while providing revenue diversification and professional development opportunities. The evaluation and planning required for international business development provided strategic thinking experience while creating options for accelerated growth and market expansion. The personal lifestyle enhancements that became accessible through business success included housing upgrades, luxury amenities, and leisure activities that provided comfort and satisfaction, while reflecting the practical benefits of sustained professional excellence and strategic business management. These improvements often exceeded my previous expectations or requirements, but demonstrated what disciplined effort and independent achievement could generate over time. Professional awards and recognition during this period included business leadership honors, industry achievement acknowledgments, and community service recognitions that provided external validation while creating marketing opportunities and credibility that supported continued success and market positioning. These honors often generated media attention and speaking opportunities that enhanced visibility and thought leadership while providing personal satisfaction and professional advancement. The business valuation and strategic planning exercises that I conducted during this period revealed substantial enterprise value and growth potential that exceeded my original projections and expectations. The formal business evaluation processes provided insights into market positioning and competitive advantages while creating options for future expansion, partnership, or acquisition opportunities that could accelerate growth and market impact. Financial advisory relationships evolved to include wealth management and estate planning considerations that reflected the substantial asset accumulation and income generation that successful business operations had produced. The sophisticated financial planning that became appropriate at this wealth level required expert guidance while providing security and confidence about long-term financial independence and legacy planning. Employment opportunities that emerged during this period included executive positions with major corporations and partnership offers from established consulting firms that would have provided substantial compensation and career advancement within traditional corporate structures. The evaluation of these alternatives reinforced my commitment to independent business ownership while validating the market value and professional reputation that my firm had achieved. Strategic partnership opportunities with complementary service providers and potential acquisition targets provided options for business expansion and market consolidation that could enhance competitive positioning while providing economies of scale and service diversification. The evaluation and negotiation of these opportunities required sophisticated business analysis while providing experience in complex transaction management and strategic planning. Community leadership roles that I accepted during this period included Economic Development Committee participation, professional association governance, and civic organization leadership that provided opportunities to contribute expertise while building relationships and visibility that supported both personal satisfaction and business development objectives. These activities often required significant time commitments, but generated recognition and connections that justified the investment while providing meaningful community contribution. The annual business review and strategic planning processes that I implemented during this period provided systematic evaluation of performance and market positioning while creating accountability structures that ensured continued progress toward defined objectives and measurable outcomes. These formal planning systems often revealed opportunities and challenges that might otherwise have been overlooked while providing frameworks for decision-making and resource allocation. Media attention and public recognition that accumulated during this period included business publication features, conference keynote invitations, and expert commentary requests that enhanced thought leadership positioning while creating marketing benefits and professional visibility. The media relations and public speaking skills that I developed through these opportunities provided confidence and competence that supported continued business development while creating platforms for sharing insights and expertise with broader audiences. The initial contact that would signal fundamental changes in my family's circumstances arrived through an unexpected text message from Nicole on a Tuesday morning in late September, precisely 3 years and 4 months after our last meaningful conversation. The message appeared on my phone during a strategic planning meeting with my senior team, where we were discussing expansion opportunities and resource allocation for the upcoming quarter. The timing of this interruption, arriving during a period of professional focus and business success, created an immediate contrast between the stability I had built through independent effort and the apparent crisis that had prompted this unprecedented outreach from my estranged sister. The message itself was brief and carefully worded, requesting a phone conversation about family matters, without providing specific details about the nature or urgency of the situation that had motivated her to break years of silence and reach out to the sister whose concerns and needs had been dismissed during previous family conflicts. The formal tone and lack of personal warmth in her communication suggested that this contact was driven by necessity rather than genuine desire for relationship restoration or acknowledgement of previous treatment patterns that had led to our estrangement. My initial response to this communication required careful consideration of both emotional and strategic factors, as I recognized that any engagement with family members would need to occur from a position of strength and clear boundaries rather than the emotional vulnerability and desperate need for approval that had characterized my previous interactions with them. The personal growth and professional success that I had achieved during the intervening years provided a foundation of confidence and self-worth that enabled me to approach this potential re-engagement with curiosity rather than anxiety about family approval or acceptance. The phone conversation that occurred that evening revealed the extent of the financial and personal challenges that had developed within my family's household during the years of my independence and professional advancement. Nicole's voice carried stress and uncertainty that contrasted sharply with the confident optimism and family security that had characterized her communications during previous interactions, when family resources and support systems had seemed adequate to address any challenges or difficulties that might arise. The primary issue that had prompted her outreach involved significant financial pressures that were threatening the stability of the multi-generational living arrangement that had displaced me from the family home 3 years earlier. Marcus had experienced substantial reductions in work hours and overtime opportunities due to economic downturns affecting the manufacturing sector, creating income shortfalls that were challenging their ability to contribute to household expenses and maintain their standard of living within the family home environment. Additional complications had emerged from unexpected medical expenses related to Emma's healthcare needs, which had required specialist consultations and treatment programs that exceeded the coverage provided by Marcus's employer-sponsored insurance plan. These medical costs had created substantial debt accumulation that was affecting their credit ratings and financial flexibility, while adding stress to an already challenging economic situation that had been developing gradually over several months. My parents' financial situation had also deteriorated during this period, as retirement income proved insufficient to support not only their own living expenses, but also the additional costs associated with housing and supporting Nicole's family of 3. The utilities, groceries, healthcare premiums, and household maintenance expenses that had increased substantially with additional occupants were straining their fixed income and retirement savings in ways that threatened their long-term financial security and independence. David's health had declined during the previous year, requiring medications and medical treatments that created significant out-of-pocket expenses while reducing his ability to pursue part-time employment or consulting work that might have supplemented their retirement income. These health challenges had also increased Patricia's caregiving responsibilities, while limiting their mobility and social activities in ways that had contributed to isolation and reduced quality of life for both parents. The housing maintenance and repair needs that had been deferred during previous years of financial strain were now becoming urgent requirements that exceeded their available resources and ability to manage independently. The roof repairs, heating system updates, and electrical work that were needed to maintain the home's safety and habitability required substantial investments that were beyond their current financial capabilities, without external assistance or financing arrangements. Nicole's emotional state during our conversation revealed the stress and anxiety that these compounding challenges were creating for her family relationships and personal well-being. The role strain of managing childcare responsibilities while attempting to maintain part-time employment and contribute to household finances had created exhaustion and frustration that were affecting her relationship with Marcus and her interactions with our parents, who were also struggling with their own health and financial pressures. The implicit request for assistance that emerged during this conversation was carefully presented as an opportunity for family reconciliation and mutual support, rather than acknowledgement of the previous treatment patterns that had led to my withdrawal from family relationships. Nicole's approach suggested that she viewed my professional success and financial resources as family assets that should be available to address collective challenges, without recognition of the personal costs and boundary violations that had necessitated my independence from family dynamics and expectations. My response to these revelations required careful balance between genuine concern for family members' well-being and protection of the emotional and financial boundaries that had enabled my professional success and personal satisfaction during the intervening years. The request for assistance presented both an opportunity to demonstrate the strength and capability that I had developed through independence, and a potential threat to the stability and progress that had resulted from maintaining distance from family dysfunction and manipulation patterns. The financial analysis that I conducted following this conversation revealed that the assistance being requested would require substantial monetary contributions that could significantly impact my business investments and personal financial planning if not managed carefully and strategically. The amounts needed to address their immediate challenges were significant enough to affect my cash flow and growth investments, while potentially creating ongoing obligations and expectations for continued support that could undermine my financial independence and business stability. The emotional processing of this situation required extensive reflection on my values, priorities, and long-term objectives for both personal relationships and professional development. The decision about whether and how to provide assistance would need to reflect my growth and maturity, while avoiding repetition of previous patterns where my contributions were taken for granted and my needs were subordinated to other family members' preferences and comfort levels. Strategic considerations included the potential impact on my business operations and employee responsibilities if significant financial resources were diverted to family assistance, as well as the precedent that such assistance might establish for future expectations and requests that could create ongoing obligations and complications for my independent decision-making and resource allocation priorities. The consultation process that I undertook during the following days included discussions with trusted advisors, professional mentors, and financial consultants who could provide objective perspectives on the situation while helping me evaluate various approaches to balancing family concern with personal boundary maintenance and professional responsibility to employees and clients who depended on continued business stability and growth. Professional obligations during this period required continued attention to client relationships and business development activities that could not be compromised by family concerns or emotional distractions, regardless of the ultimate decisions I made about assistance and re-engagement with family members. The contrast between the stability and growth trajectory of my business relationships and the crisis-driven nature of family communications reinforced the wisdom of maintaining clear priorities and boundary systems. The investigation and verification process that I discreetly conducted regarding my family's financial situation revealed that their challenges were indeed substantial and legitimate, though some of the problems appeared to result from poor financial planning and unrealistic expectations about the sustainability of their multi-generational living arrangement, rather than purely external economic factors beyond their control. Market research and competitive analysis that I conducted during this period revealed opportunities for business expansion and investment that would require significant capital commitments and strategic focus over the coming months. These professional opportunities created potential conflicts with family assistance requests, while demonstrating the opportunity costs that would be associated with diverting resources and attention from business growth to family crisis management. The legal and tax implications of various assistance approaches required consultation with professional advisors who could structure any potential support in ways that protected both my business interests and personal financial security while providing effective help for family members without creating unintended consequences or ongoing complications for any parties involved. Personal reflection during this period included consideration of how my values and character had evolved during the years of independence, and whether those changes required different approaches to family relationships than I might have pursued. In the past, when my identity and self-worth were more dependent on family approval and acceptance, rather than professional achievement and personal integrity. The timeline pressures that Nicole had indicated were affecting their situation required relatively prompt decision-making about any assistance I might provide, while also allowing sufficient time for careful evaluation and strategic planning that would ensure any help was structured appropriately and effectively, rather than creating additional problems or unrealistic expectations for ongoing support and involvement. Community reputation considerations included evaluation of how family financial difficulties and any assistance I might provide could affect professional relationships and business development opportunities, particularly given the public visibility that my success had generated and the importance of maintaining credibility and stability perceptions among clients and business partners. The emotional boundaries and communication protocols that would be necessary for any re-engagement with family members required careful planning and clear establishment before any assistance decisions were made to ensure that help could be provided without recreating previous dysfunction patterns or compromising the personal growth and professional success that had resulted from maintaining independence from family manipulation and control attempts. Risk assessment and contingency planning became essential components of any assistance evaluation, as I recognized that family financial crises often involve complex underlying issues that may not be resolved through temporary financial support alone, and that ongoing involvement could create escalating obligations and expectations that might threaten my own stability and independence if not managed carefully through clear agreements and boundary maintenance. The decision-making framework that I established for evaluating my family's request for assistance required systematic analysis that balanced compassionate concern with strategic protection of the professional achievements and personal boundaries that had enabled my success during 3 years of complete independence. This evaluation process would need to distinguish between genuine crisis circumstances that warranted consideration and manipulation attempts designed to restore previous relationship dynamics, where my resources and efforts were expected without corresponding respect or reciprocal consideration for my needs and priorities. The initial assessment phase began with comprehensive financial analysis of both my family's circumstances and my own capacity to provide meaningful assistance without compromising business operations or long-term strategic planning that supported continued growth and market positioning. This analysis required detailed review of their debt obligations, monthly expenses, and potential solutions that might address underlying problems rather than merely providing temporary relief that could create ongoing dependency without resolving fundamental issues. My own financial evaluation revealed substantial liquid assets and investment resources that could theoretically support significant family assistance without threatening immediate business operations or personal security. However, the opportunity costs of diverting these resources from planned expansion initiatives and strategic investments required careful consideration, particularly given the potential for family assistance to create ongoing obligations that might interfere with future business decisions and professional development opportunities. The risk assessment component of this evaluation focused on identifying potential negative consequences that could result from re-engagement with family relationships that had previously demonstrated dysfunctional patterns and unrealistic expectations about my role and contributions. These risks included emotional manipulation attempts, escalating demands for continued assistance, and possible interference with business operations or professional relationships if family dynamics became disruptive, or demanding of time and attention that should be directed toward client service and business development. Professional consultation during this assessment period included discussions with my attorney regarding legal structures that could protect business assets while enabling personal assistance, meetings with my financial advisor about tax implications and wealth preservation strategies, and conversations with trusted business mentors who could provide objective perspectives on family crisis management without compromising professional obligations and strategic planning. The conditions framework that emerged from this analysis established clear parameters for any assistance I might provide, including specific limitations on financial contributions, defined expectations for family behavior and communication patterns, and explicit boundaries regarding my availability and involvement in ongoing family management and decision-making processes. These conditions were designed to enable meaningful help while preventing restoration of previous relationship dynamics that had proven detrimental to my personal development and professional advancement. The communication strategy that I developed for presenting these conditions required careful balance between firm boundary establishment and compassionate concern for genuine family difficulties. The presentation would need to demonstrate my growth and maturity while avoiding accusations or recriminations that might create additional conflict rather than enabling constructive problem-solving and potential relationship restoration based on mutual respect and realistic expectations. The preliminary meeting that I arranged with my parents occurred at a neutral location rather than their home, enabling professional discussion without the emotional complications and historical associations that might interfere with objective evaluation of current circumstances and future possibilities. This choice of venue also established precedent for business-like interactions that would characterize any future engagement rather than restoration of previous family dynamics based on emotional appeals and manipulative communication patterns. David and Patricia's appearance at this meeting revealed the extent of stress and anxiety that their financial and health challenges had created during the previous months. Their presentation of the situation included detailed explanations of mounting expenses, reduced income sources, and healthcare costs that were exceeding their retirement planning projections while creating uncertainty about their ability to maintain independent living arrangements without external assistance or significant lifestyle modifications. The specific assistance requests that emerged during this conversation involved substantial financial contributions that would address immediate debt obligations while providing ongoing monthly support for household expenses that exceeded their retirement income capacity. The amounts being requested represented significant percentages of my annual business income, while potentially creating expectations for continued support that could extend indefinitely, depending on their future health and financial circumstances. My response to their presentation emphasized the importance of understanding underlying causes of their financial difficulties, rather than simply addressing symptoms through temporary financial relief that might not provide sustainable solutions or enable them to regain financial independence and stability. This approach required detailed examination of their spending patterns, healthcare planning, and household management decisions that had contributed to their current crisis. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.